Broadcasting live from the Branch Loft pathway on the plane of Zendikar. This is Tap Tap Concede. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Tap Tap Concede. James here, which is odd. Normally I am not talking on this podcast. Normally I'm sitting quietly in this chair listening to Graham, Nelson, and Cameron record this podcast. But Graham is busy this evening, so I'm here, and I'm excited because we have a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. But first, Nelson, Cameron, how's it going?
I'm very well.
And Cameron, you're well?
I am. You know, things are what they are.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm excited for James to be in the talking seat tonight.
Yeah.
Normally we have crouching Graham, hidden James, as you mentioned earlier, but
right.
But with a big news week, I really appreciate your energy. I want you to know that.
Sweet. Yeah, I got lots of energy. I've just been talking all day long, and I got to talk all night long. It's been a long day, but I'm excited. Magic is great. All right, pleasantries out of the way. How about sponsors? Let's go with Card Kingdom. CardKingdom.com/LRR. Not only do they sponsor this podcast, but they sponsor our weekly Magic streams, both LRRMTG and the Friday Night Paper Fight. We love them. We use them. They're working away as safely as can be. As far as I know, Zendikar Rising pre-orders are live. So if any of the cards that we talk about today tickle your fancy, you can head over there. Again, cardkingdom.com/LRR. It'll apply the affiliate code and order some cards. At the end of your order, you can say, Loading Ready Run, sent me button, please, and you will get sent a little limited edition 1-inch button. Right now, it says put in the woo in Wooberg.
Woo!
Although by the time you listen to this, it's very likely it could be gone or very soon to be gone. So if you're looking to grab that button, please do so at your earliest convenience. That's cardkingdom.com/LRR, a kingdom of cards. And of course, everything that we do, whether that be here on the podcast or Twitch or YouTube or wherever else we might produce content, couldn't be possible without your help over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, please head over there and check us out. All right, on to the Magic news. And there was a lot of Magic news. Now, Zendikar Rising is coming up here in just a few weeks. In fact, just earlier today, at time of recording, we announced the Zendikar Rising pre-release, which is going to be happening on Monday. September 14th at 11 a.m. Pacific over on twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun. It's going to be featuring the regular cast of characters that you know and love. Nelson and Serge will be judging. Graham, Kathleen, Cameron, Adam, Ben, and Wheeler will be playing. And this time, we're actually bringing in some guests, but not like we normally would. Megan and Maria from Good Luck High Five are going to be joining us. Very similar to how Graham and Kathleen joined us from their house during these PPRs of the past few months. So we're excited to slowly reintroduce guests back into the PPR and hopefully make it a little bit more enjoyable for you all to see some new people. So yeah, tune in September 14th, 11 a.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun. So this past week, they announced Zendikar Rising. They gave us a bunch of previews, but not only that, they talked about a whole bunch of stuff that they're going to be doing in 2021. So I'm really excited, and we've got a lot to talk about. But let's start with arguably the most important thing, something that by the time you listen to this, you cannot buy anymore. But I think it's still cool and we can talk about, which is the secret lair that is for sale today at time of recording, which is in celebration of Yargle Day. Y'all like Yargle?
Yargle!
All right, there we go.
There you go.
Yargle.
Yep, there we go. Nelson's got it.
Adam Savadan finally making an appearance on Tap Tap Concede.
This is a very silly goof, and credit where credit is due. I think this is fun. I think it's kind of fresh. I think it's very similar to the dog secret lair that we talked about on the podcast last week or 2 weeks ago. So I wasn't on that podcast. I was kind of medium on the dog secret lair. I thought it was cool, and I don't fault them for doing it like the way they do. The fact is that there aren't that many good dogs to print in that sort of fancy way. But this is taking it kind of a step into the silly, which I really like. So you've got 5 cards over the 5 colors. You've got Swords to Plowshare, featuring Yargle. You've got Opt, featuring Yargle. Fatal Push, featuring Yargle. Anger of the Gods, featuring Yargle. And finally, Explore, which, to be honest, is probably the best one in terms of art, featuring our boy Yargle.
Do you like it the most because you don't get to look at Yargle's face?
No, I like it the most because it's just like him on a mountain overlooking a valley, just arms in the air, just screaming, right?
Did you notice anything about the art for these cards?
No. Well,
Cameron?
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, I mean, maybe not in the way that you're about to tell me. I noticed that Yargle is in all of them. Does that count?
Yargle is in all of them. That is something to notice, just like spotting Jace on the Ixalan basic lands. Cameron, you probably noticed something about the art for these cards?
It's Yargle posing in famous cards.
Yeah, it's not. Sorry, I'm not trying to be complicated or anything here. There's no second layer. It's just the art for these cards. If you haven't seen it yet, it's mocked up original art. Like it's the same color palette. It's new art, but it's like reproduced old art.
Right.
So so it's the Swords of Plowshares from I think it's Elspeth versus Tezzeret, or one of the Judge promos originally, where it's like the iconic skulls in the background and the warrior has like the sword over their shoulders. It's the Opt from Dominaria. It's the Fatal Push. The Fatal Push is more like the promo, I think, right? Anyways, and then Explore, it's the art you know from Explore, and the art you know from Anger of the Gods. It just has Yargle in all of them. And it is a new painting, but it's clearly like an homage, like a very straightforward parody of the original painting. So extremely silly, and like, especially the Explore, you're going to be able to like cast it in a game, probably the Opt too, and like your opponent might not know. I mean, especially on webcam Magic days, but like even at FNM, your opponent might not know that like it's Yargle opting instead of Teferi opting, and like I love that. Like it's very clever, and I like what they did with it. It's the sort of thing that like seems like we wouldn't have seen it in any product except Secret Lair. So this one actually, it feels like a Secret Lair flex. That said, for this kind of thing, I have a tough time rationalizing spending money on it, but I would love it if these were like promos, and I mean, I guess that's essentially what they are. So very cool product.
Cam, you like them?
I think they're totally charming.
Because I know you were a big fan of the dog one.
Oh, yeah, I love dogs. They're just great. The way they jump at you and like...
And bark. And...
smell and bark.
Drool,
bite.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I have a dog, and I agree with everything you're saying.
But yeah, no, these are really like... they're cute. I needed this. I don't think I need this, but I needed this.
I'm so happy this exists, right?
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to buy it, although during this podcast I've been thinking about it. I suppose I still have an hour or two. I'm not going to do it.
From this podcast, 2 hours and 20 minutes, and for $30 you can have the regular, or for $40, and these are American prices, you can have the foil version.
You know, the $30 doesn't bother me as much as the fact that I know I have to wait like 6 months. I still haven't gotten my summer super drop.
Yeah,
and so it's like,
fair.
I'll spend this money and then I'll have completely forgotten that this exists by the time it arrives at my doorstep.
But then it's making you happy twice, right? Like you're enjoying it now and you're going to buy it. And then in like 4 or 5 months, something's going to show up at your door and it's going to be Yargle and it's going to be Explore. And you're going to be like, man, that's great. This is great.
It's pretty cool.
I don't know. I've yet to buy a secret drop, and this is the one that might actually, or secret layer, and I might actually do this one. I don't know. I think it's pretty cute.
It's super cute.
I also like that Yargle this is the most characterization I think we've ever gotten for Yargle.
Right.
And what's coming across is that Yargle is kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, Yargle is not a thoughtful friend. Yargle's quite selfish.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, well, speaking of secret layers, jumping very far ahead into the announcement video that they did earlier this week, and it's not a whole lot of information, but they did announce that they are doing a tie-in with The Walking Dead. Now, not The Walking Dead comic, it's a tie-in with AMC's The Walking Dead. So I know that there were some people who were excited when this was announced, with the idea being that we could see some really cool, iconic Walking Dead comic art on Magic cards depicting very cool zombie cards. And while I agree that would be neat, that is definitely not what we're getting. We're definitely getting AMC's The Walking Dead. What they spoiled was the Walker token. So this is just a 2/2 zombie token. And it's I can't remember, the bicycle lady or something like that. I don't know. This is very clearly iconic to Walking Dead, and I don't read it. I haven't watched it. I don't know. I feel like somebody's mentioned something about a bicycle, though. But this seems kind of cool. I mean, taking arguably the biggest zombie, IP that exists today and has existed in the last 10 years and tying it in with, this iconic creature for Magic is kind of cool. Any hopes or desires for cards that you'd like to see in what will almost assuredly be a zombie themed secret lair?
Well, I think they're definitely going to give us at least one lord. So it's like, which lord would you prefer to see?
Right.
And which character do you want that to be? Like, do you want like a Daryl Death Baron? Like, I don't know. I don't actually watch the show either, but I have read the books up until, I don't know, I think I've read more than 20 of the books. So certainly I would like to see that bat with the razor wire that has a name that I forget. Sorry, everyone. I stopped reading it a long time ago and I haven't watched the show. But yeah, there's some important moments. I wouldn't mind seeing like a spell where like Rick Grimes' family is falling apart. Like the thing where like Liliana's salvation or whatever, or the thing where like something gets -X and they also make zombies. Like if they're trying to escape the prison,
right?
And that spell is being cast. I think I'd like that. I'm not sure if there's an appropriate like equipment card to put into a zombie secret lair, but there's some interesting, certainly, choice pieces of equipment from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But yeah, which zombie exactly? I don't know. Gravecrawler, I guess like this token looks like Gravecrawler. Gravecrawler is the zombie I personally play the most. And I wouldn't mind a promo Gravecrawler. I didn't really like I think it's a box topper one. There's some sort of fancy foil one that I didn't like as much as the original art. But I'd play a weird Walking Dead Gravecrawler.
I mean, it is tricky when you don't know The Walking Dead and you don't know what kind of, key moments or aspects of the show that they can draw from. But I know like Endless Ranks of the Dead would be a really cool card that I feel like they could draw from.
Yeah, certainly.
A bunch of zombies up against a stained glass window. I have to feel like something like that has happened in the 1,000 episodes of The Walking Dead that exists. And then I think my favorite zombie lord,
yeah, they do definitely attack a church at least once.
Yeah, and then I think my favorite zombie lord is Cemetery Reaper.
Yeah, I was thinking of too. I like that one.
So I don't know if again there's something that sort of works for that, but again, I mean, whatever. Just what kind of zombie cards would look cool? I don't know.
Like, I guess my favorite zombie is probably Carrion Feeder.
Carrion Feeder's a good one.
Yeah, I'm like, aren't they kind of all Carrion Feeders though?
Which Carrion Feeder do you like? I assume the original art?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the OG art,
not the Modern Horizons update.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go with the old border.
Yeah, that's fair.
The thing I like about the Walking Dead comics so much is that it's really just about the people. The zombies could be like a rising tide. The zombies could be like the flu. The zombies could be like the whole world is experiencing earthquakes and lava or something. It's just about how the trappings of society are lost and like people have to kind of rebuild society up out from anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so if there's a card that like represents kind of Rick Grimes' leadership, or just like the various moments when the group seems like it's going to be lost and they're trying to, cling together and like still find hope, like still find a reason to keep going when like they have to keep watching their friends die. Yeah. I'm not sure really which Magic card best describes that, but it seems like an enchantment or a sorcery or something rather than an actual zombie card, like which zombies they choose to put into the zombie secret lair. I don't know, but if they can spread out into one other kind of thing like that, would be sweet. Maybe Liliana the Last Hope would be sweet because it does also make infinite zombies, and maybe they could like have Liliana the Last Hope with like one of the scenes from just the humans and Walking Dead talking to each other. Yeah, I'm super curious how it comes out, and tip of the hat to all the big time Walking Dead fans listening right now and salivating over how this is going to be treated.
Right.
Presumably, I'm going to go ahead and call that we're going to get an Elite Inquisitor based on the, is it Daryl?
Yeah, so Daryl is, I'm not sure if that's Daryl or not, but Daryl is definitely one of the sort of like people in the group. It's kind of like a white trash sort of biker guy, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I watched the show for like a couple of seasons, then I realized, hey, everyone in this show looks like they smell like pee. I don't think I like anyone here.
Oh yeah, that's another great thing about that show is that like it's hard to figure out who to like and why, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So secret layers are a thing. All right, moving on. Let's keep going. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. So Zendikar Rising coming out in a few weeks here. Don't want to spend a tremendous amount of time on it because obviously we'll be talking about it for, the next couple weeks after this episode goes up as we actually get a chance to play it. But trailer came out. It looks great. Story is coming back. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. And we can chat about some of the cards and some of the mechanics. I think one of the big sort of aspects that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on is the fact that Magic Story is coming back in a way. Cam, I know that tends to be your jam. Do you have any thoughts on the story coming back? Or
I was very happy to see it come back. The first installment, Chapter 1, I managed to get through.
Okay.
Managed to get through it after a couple of days.
Glowing review.
Yeah.
But hey, at least it's there.
It's there.
I can't claim this same achievement. I did see the article. I'm not a huge story person, but I noticed that your review doesn't immediately begin with, this was panned on Twitter for the following reasons, or like, this has all the following problematic things going on. So that's like, little tiny feather in their hat.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't step on any immediately obvious rakes, which, kudos. Good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the characterization is fun. It's fairly decent. I like that in it. Nissa is constantly asking herself, like, what would Gideon do, right? Which I think is interesting. I didn't pick up on them having like a particularly close relationship or close friendship, but that kind of like, whose moral clarity do I admire? Who would know what to do in this situation? Gideon would know, right? Gideon would at least, he would do good, right? He might not be smart, but he would be right.
Fair. Is there like could you give a like TLDR of what is going on in this first story?
Nahiri is investigating a core ruin, and Nissa is there too. Like, Nahiri has asked Nissa to come along and help her investigate this place. And, it's I got a level with you. I actually haven't finished it. But I do know Nissa calls Jace for help, right? Her comment is like, what would Gideon do? Gideon would ask for help. Gideon would not be too proud to ask for help in this situation because, like, he knows what he's capable of and he knows what he knows. And he would know when he would need outside assistance to figure out a problem. So she asks Jace, and Jace is so bad at everything. How is a telepath this clueless? Jace, you can read minds.
Why can't you read the room?
You shouldn't be this awful to people. But maybe that's the great paradox of being, right? Jace, the multiverse's greatest magical theorist and telepath, is actually very thoughtless.
Fair.
And selfish.
I don't know much about how they've chosen to characterize like Jace's abilities too. It's possible that telepathy isn't something that's casual and easy for him. Maybe it's more like telepathy is a thing he can do if he tries really hard. And most of the time he's just like lost in his own head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of Nahiri and Jace, I don't think we've talked about these cards yet on the podcast.
We went over the 2 spoiled planeswalkers last week, yeah.
Did you? Perfect. Well, then I'm not even going to worry about it. We're going to move right on and talk about other cool cards that are coming out. So, I mean, we talked about Jace last week, which means we have sort of talked about the fact that Kicker's back is pretty cool. There's a really neat card that was talked about during this event, Blood Chief's Thirst. 1 black mana for a sorcery. It has Kicker for 2 and a black, and it reads, destroy target creature or planeswalker with converted mana cost 2 or less. If the spell was kicked, instead destroy target creature or planeswalker. So basically get rid of that CMC requirement. This card seems pretty good.
I don't know why they needed to make it a sorcery, but yes, I like it. It's good.
I mean, I'm curious. I saw a lot of people, I feel like, jokingly talk about Tybalt.
Yeah. It comes to mind, right?
But actually discussing Wrenn and 6.
Okay. There's also one of the Nissas, Steward of Valoron. Is that one? Did Steward of Valoron come out with Amonkhet Remastered? I'm not actually sure.
Not entirely sure.
Anyways, she's a blue-green and X planeswalker that I like to play in Highlander, so possible that's a real target for 1 black mana in Gladiator. Probably not too much action in Historic, even if it's on there. But yeah, Brennan 6 in Modern, 1 mana answer to that card, along with most creatures, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is CMC 2 or less is going to hit a whole heck of a lot of stuff in Modern. I mean, it seems like a pretty sweet pickup in just Limited, so kind of excited for this kind of card. Again, sorcery doesn't make it feel super great.
I wonder if I wonder if like part of the reason was for Limited. Like no, I doubt it though. I was gonna say if you kill someone's planeswalker on their own turn after they like made their attacks based on having their planeswalker for next turn or whatever, and then you have an instant speed removal for it, it can be a little bit tough. But in Limited, most of the time you don't have a planeswalker anyway. I'm genuinely curious why it's not an instant, because we've had a whole, like, for 4 mana, even for 3 mana, we've had this effect where you can murder a planeswalker or a creature, and almost always for 4 mana you're getting it at instant. I think when they made them in the past, like the Vraska's Contempt card, this has no upside once you've paid the 4 mana compared to Vraska's Contempt. It also made them lose 2 life.
Right.
So still, even making a sorcery, like it's obviously good removal.
Yeah. Next up, so that's Kicker. Next up, big returning mechanic, Landfall.
Woo!
And what better card to demonstrate Landfall than with our good friend Lotus Cobra?
Yep.
1 and a green for a snake, 2/1 snake, and it reads Landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, add 1 mana of any color.
The beautiful snake is back. Yeah, this card's fantastic as long as there are fetch lands in the format. Without fetch lands, it's still like a medium good mana accelerant, maybe. I like that it has 2 power all the time. It's a super hard card to evaluate. I remember in a pro player interview, Martin Juza said it was definitely the worst card in his deck that was like built around ramping, and like all of the best draws involved playing Lotus Cobra, but then you just like never wanted to have it any other time except in your opening hand.
Yeah, I run it in Highlander and Aristocrats because it's like a mox that you can eat.
Yeah.
But it's the worst there, I think. It's the worst mana dork in my deck.
I played it in Standard. The first time it was in Standard, it was next to Noble Hierarch and Knight of the Reliquary and fetch lands. So like it was in the same set as the first set of enemy fetch lands from the original Zendikar. And, it was fantastic in this deck that really relied on it to get up to 6 mana and cast Sovereigns of Lost Lara. But it wasn't the most popular card in that Standard format, or even in all the green decks.
I guess with Uro, right?
Yeah, and there's like, are there 3 different... Or one of them is going to rotate. Sorry. Yeah, like right now in Standard, you can play Migration Path, and also the other. There's 2 different explosive vegetations, and they're keeping that, right? Because there's another. We'll get to it, but they spoiled another, or there's a preview of another explosive vegetation. So there's going to continue to be 2 explosive vegetations in Standard for Lotus Cobra. So that's something.
And it should be said that so this has seen a few reprints, Iconic Masters. Actually, that's about it. It's got some promos as well, but it was downshifted to rare in Iconic Masters and has kept that rarity going into Zendikar Rising, because when it was originally printed in Zendikar, it was a mythic.
That's great, actually. It was like the poster child for complaining about the use of the mythic rarity in the exact opposite way that it was announced it would be used, because when Zendikar came out, mythic rare was only 1 or 2 years old.
Right.
And this was one of the first ones where it was just like, well, come on. Like you said, you wouldn't give us dual lands, but this is clearly a mana producer. Every deck that wants this is going to want 4 of it.
Right.
And that was true. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The idea that, don't worry, mythic rares will only be like weird flavorful cards, not things that are 4 of in competitive decks. And that was clearly not the case.
I will say, though, that this showcase treatment for Lotus Cobra is hands down one of the most striking pieces of Magic art I've seen in a very long time.
I'm so impressed with this year's showcase frames. Like
it
Ikoria,
is vibrant AF. Yeah,
M21, this one, the other ones I've seen from New Zendikar. These showcase frames are so gorgeous.
Yeah,
they look even better in paper in my hand. Like I just opened a pack with one for the first time for the M21 pre-release, and yeah, they just look so much better even than I thought they would.
Yeah.
Paper. They're gorgeous.
Continuing on with Landfall, we've got our boy, or maybe not, I don't know, Omnath, Locus of Creation.
Our thing.
Our thing.
Yeah.
Our elemental.
Our elemental, yeah.
It is a 4/4 for a red, a green, a white, and a blue. When Omnath, Locus of Creation, enters the battlefield, draw a card. And landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 4 life. If this is the first time this ability has resolved this turn, if it's the second time, add red, green, white, blue. And if it's the third time, Omnath deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker you don't control. And it also has a gorgeous showcase treatment. Omnath is back and pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's a cool card. I did hear some grumbling that Omnath as a commander was boring because it stopped after 4 landfall triggers, and I don't know what you want, dudes. I really don't know what to tell you at this point.
Omnath is such an interesting character and has so many treatments that do a bunch of different things. Like, is there anything Omnath can't do? Doesn't make anyone discard cards, I guess.
So this is the 4th version of Omnath, right? Omnath,
Yeah.
Locus of Mana, was the original printing back in Worldwake, it looks like.
It's just upwelling on a creature and it gets big.
Yeah, then it went to Locus of Rage.
Makes big things, right?
And then Locus of the Royal.
Hits you with direct damage.
So it's gone from green to green red to green red blue to green red blue white. So the only thing left now is a Wooburg Omnath, right?
No, they're going to skip it, and he's going to merge with the Eldrazi somehow and be a, 4-color plus a wingding.
Oh, God.
Hashtag called it.
Okay. I mean, you called it. It's, what is it? It's Thursday, September 3rd, 2020.
7:03 p.m. I just had the idea. That's right.
Yep. If it happens, it's all thanks to you. All right. So Landfall's back. Landfall's great. Really excited. The next big sort of mechanic in Zendikar, and it's actually kind of curious that they've decided to introduce this mechanic here, considering what's coming next year, and we'll talk about that soon. And that's the party mechanic. And I'm going to show you Shepard of Heroes to kind of give you an idea of what this is. So for 4 and a white, you get an Angel Cleric. It's a 3/4 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature in your party. Now, your party consists of up to 1 of each of a cleric, a rogue, a warrior, and a wizard. So this is a Angel Cleric. So this would fulfill the role of the cleric. And then you have something like Acquisitions Expert, which is a human rogue that would fill the rogue slot. And then you have someone like Tazri here, who's a warrior. And then finally, you've got Linvala, who is your wizard. So these are the four classes that they've shown off here. And basically, you are rewarded if you have party.
Fun, cute, flavorful.
Yep. I'm looking forward to reading the FAQ. My immediate thought is just that I don't understand entirely how this ability works. It seems as though, we see 2 different cost reduction mechanics and 2 different triggered abilities. So party just seems to be a thing that you kind of check whenever you need to. And who exactly is in your party, which creatures you've chosen to, fill up these classes can change each time you have a party effect that cares. That's my impression.
So to determine the number of creatures in your party, check whether you control a cleric, whether you control a rogue, whether you control a warrior, and whether you control a wizard. The number is the total number of those checks to which you answered yes. Each creature you control can be counted for only one of those checks. So if a creature has more than one party creature type, and there are multiple ways to count that creature that could result in different numbers of creatures in your party, the highest such number is used. For example, if you control a cleric and a cleric wizard, the number of creatures in your party is 2. You cannot choose to have it just be 1 by counting the cleric wizard first as a cleric, if that's helping. And then some cards refer to you as having a full party, which means you have to have all 4 present.
Neat.
So that's kind of what's going on here then. And then you've got cards that sort of pay off. Spoils of Adventure, 4 white, blue for an instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So that means if you have a cleric and a rogue out, that spell is going to cast you 2, a white and a blue. If you have all 4 members, then it's going to cost you a white and a blue, and you're going to get to gain 3 life and draw 3 cards, which seems pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, back in my draft days, we were happy enough to play Kiss of the Amisha that cost the same as this with no cost reduction and only gained you 3 more life. And only drew you 2 cards, I think. Spoils of Adventure, sign me up. And it's an instant? Oh, this part might be for Constructed. Kiss of the Amisha finally making it onto the big show.
Hold on. I need to see what Kiss of the... I need to know what this...
I'm probably dreaming here. What do you think, Cameron? Is Spoils of the Adventure a standard card? It's an instant, and it says draw 3 cards.
Well, I mean, like, I have seen people trying to work out, like, what is the best party currently in standard, right? And, like, Linvala gets in, Breezy Bee, Brazen Borrower as your rogue.
A lot of creatures that are good happen to be wizards. Just a bunch of half-decent creatures of Magic are wizards. And a lot of, like, aggro creatures are warriors.
How cheap does Spoils of Adventure have to be before you start feeling really good?
Honestly, I think if you don't reduce it at all, you just have opportunity where one of the cards is a free gain 3 life.
Yeah.
And, like, that's not that bad. You tapped out for 6 to draw 4 cards. Wouldn't you like to gain 3 life instead? It doesn't seem that bad. Like
Sphinx's Rev. This is just Sphinx's Rev base. Right? Like, or at least the same cost as a...
Exactly, yeah. It's a 6 mana Sphinx's Rev that sometimes costs less, yeah.
And if you control a Linvala, or a Brazen Borrower, or Clerics and Rogues, who's who right now?
Basically any creature, even if you're just casting this for 5. I think if you're casting this for 5 in a control deck, you're really happy.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I mean, I was looking through my Highlander deck to see if there was any incidental value I could get. And... there's a lot of shamans, a lot of monks, a lot of druids, a lot of creatures without jobs.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like gnawing on a bone going, me? I'm currently unemployed, right? And suddenly I feel like my dad, I guess.
Get a job. Get a haircut.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Butcher of the Horde, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, I'm being a 5/4 who, with... a 5/4 with upside for 4 mana. You're right. I should be out running laps, Cameron.
Falconwrath Aristocrat.
A noble.
What does noble do for me? Doesn't that just mean that other people pay for your food and rent?
Yeah. As it turns out, Falconwrath Noble is just doing, like, getting nothing done all day.
Get a real job, Falconwrath Noble. Blood Artist. Is Blood Artist a wizard?
Blood Artist is in true artist fashion, and I can say this as somebody who falls in the art world unemployed.
Right, just a vampire, isn't it? That's hilarious. Yep. That's brutal because you can see in the art and in the flavor and in the form of Blood Artist, they are working.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is labor. This is valuable work.
Yeah, look at that. They're cranking, like, they're just grinding all that blood into art.
But I guess they have a patron, maybe? I don't know.
I love the idea that Blood Artist has a Patreon.
I love the idea that Spoils of Adventure, like, Blood Artist doesn't make it cheaper, and Blood Artist is gonna, like, protest that. Like, they'll be outside one of the Zendikons, with a sign made out of blood that says equal work for equal pay or something.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I feel as the player of this deck that many of my creatures are in fact contributing valuable labor, right? Yeah. They're doing real work, and the fact that none of these cards want to recognize that, it's a little hurtful. Yeah. Like, monks and druids unite, right? But I guess they're not going out to party. I guess they're staying in at home.
Taking care of the kids, cleaning the floors. These are all the most, romantic and exciting jobs, but none of the, like, really unfun but really important jobs are being rewarded by the party mechanic. I guess that's why it's called the party mechanic.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's right there in the name, party.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
It's time to move on.
Do what you love, kids. The money will come, maybe.
Yeah. Modal DFCs.
Say what?
Yo, these are new and kind of neat. So double face cards are back, and in kind of a neat way. They have lands on them now. So the one that was spoiled during the event is called Valakut Awakening. So this is 2 and a red for an instant. Put any number of cards from your library, from your hand on the bottom of your library, then draw that many cards plus 1.
Okay.
And then you'll notice in the bottom left-hand corner there, it has a little arrow that says land, and it says it can tap for 1 red mana. Well, that's what happens if you flip it over and instead play it as Valakut Stoneforge, which is a land that enters the battlefield tapped and taps for 1 red.
Okay.
This is very interesting and very new. Mm-hmm. They also spoiled a bunch of dual lands that act very similar. Branch Loft Pathway, which is where we're broadcasting from today, taps for a green, or play it as Boulder Loft Pathway and it taps for a white. Or maybe you want to play Bright Climb Pathway, which also taps for a white, or perhaps instead you'd rather play it as Grim Climb Pathway and tap it for a black. And they've spoiled a white-green version, a white-black, a blue-black, a red-green, a white-red, and a blue-red version of these cards.
What? Wait. 6 dual lands?
These are...
Yeah.
6?
Which is unusual, right?
6?
There's 3 enemy colored and 3 allied colored.
Right. Okay. I'm fine. Everything is fine. There's nothing weird about this, and I have no questions.
Okay. Well, so ignoring those questions,
yep,
because we don't have the answer to them.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on these cards?
Super elegant design.
I think it's, as Nelson said, very elegant design.
So this is what you got out of a dual land typically in a Zendikar draft. If you drafted a Marsh Flats, it was going to only add white or black mana, but it would give you 2 landfall triggers. And every now and then it mattered to shuffle your library too. So you don't get that. You don't get the extra landfall trigger, but you don't have to pay the life. And you essentially make the exact same decisions you were otherwise making when you play fetch lands for basics. Right? Just like, this is going to turn into one of the 2 things pictured here. And I have to decide, well, with the fetch lands, you can actually wait. But, if it was in your opening hand, you had to decide right away. And sometimes the decision was tough because you would be playing like 2 white symbols and 2 black symbols in your limited deck, for your sweet core creatures and also your Vampire Nighthawk that you picked up. You would have to decide. And sometimes you chose wrong. But yeah, this is like extremely elegant, and I don't have any questions about how it's going to work. I am a little bit nervous as a judge that these, especially the ones that are spells and then lands on the back, are going to cause some confusion / like space for angle shooting, but I don't have a specific complaint. I'm just a little nervous.
Right.
I'm really curious to see how small mana bases get.
Oh, right.
Are we going to see standard decks with like 12 basics, or not 12 basics, but like
right, 12 dedicated
lands?
Yeah, 12 only lands. Whoa, subscribe to my only lands. But I mean like 12 cards in your deck that aren't also spells.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of cool. I'm excited. I don't know. I definitely agree that I love the design. I've always been a fan of the double face cards, and I think a little bit more excited for these ones that have spells and lands. Just that feels a little bit more modal, as it were. Whereas obviously you still have to make a decision, but it's probably a little bit easier of a decision when it comes to land, right? Like, if you need to play this as a plains, or if you need to play this as a forest a little bit more often than if you need to play it as a tap land or a card draw spell. So I'm excited to see how they play.
Yeah, no, I'm also curious to see like how these dual face lands, where they line up in Highlander playability.
I think they're going to be really good. My guess is these are going to be a hot ticket, honestly, for casual play and like for maybe modern playability, Pioneer playability. I think in terms of Highlander duels, I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty high.
Right.
Like, I am all in.
I feel like right away they're probably at least as good as checklands because they can come into play untapped.
Yes. Okay, agreed there.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to play these in arena formats.
Yeah.
I think arena formats were like hurting for duels, like singleton formats.
Yeah, Gladiator's got to be so happy about this.
Absolutely agree.
I mean, I imagine, Wheeler and the very active Gladiator players are excited about this.
Yeah, but like, do I cut Isolated Chapel for Bright Climb Pathway?
I don't know if, yeah. I think my immediate guess is that that's a close decision. Like, I think they're going to be on the level of other duels that you regularly do play in Highlander.
Yeah, I don't think they'll cut anything that has like that island swamp subtype. But the ones that don't, that's gonna be a decision.
Branch Off Pathway might just be like a better brushland. Like, that might be the case. Most of the time when you're playing brushland, like sometimes you have to activate it every turn, but usually included in mana bases where you're trying to make sure you have lots of access to both colors. And then when you actually play, you're trying to kind of line up your turns so that you can tap it for generic regularly and not have to play both colors off of it regularly. So these cards do that, and with no life loss. So that's exciting.
Cool. All right. Rounding off the Zendikar news, full art basics are back. 3 of each, brand new art. They look fantastic.
Wow.
If you're watching the YouTube video right now, I'm throwing a few of them up here as we chat. And yeah, these look good.
Why is it always the islands that are so amazing?
Because they're so good.
Yeah.
They are very pretty.
Most overpowered card in Magic, now with the best art, once again.
I guess so, yeah.
And then finally, expeditions are back. They're not back in the way that they were before. So expeditions can be found in collector's boosters and as box toppers. And I think I cannot remember exactly where these are coming from, so I'm not going to speak to it right now. We can get into that maybe in a future episode, just because I don't want to get this information wrong. But we do see the return of some fetch lands here. Windswept Heath, Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Bloodstained Mire, Wooded Foothills, Marsh Flats, Scalding Tarn, Catacombs, Mesa, Rainforest, Morphic Pool, Prismatic Vista, and Wasteland were also spoiled. And I think there are 40 of them, but these are the ones that they've sent now.
The Wasteland is gorgeous. Full stop.
Oh, it's
Kinda
amazing. Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So we don't know how to get these.
We do. They're box toppers on certain products, and I can't remember exactly what those products are, and they can be found in collector's boosters. What they can't be done, like the original expeditions, these cannot be found in a traditional booster draft pack. You will not find them in a booster draft pack.
Okay. Remember when like a set would come out and you just know how to buy it because it just came out in booster boxes, and inside the booster boxes were packs, and you knew how those worked, and you didn't have to wait for a briefing to figure out.
There is a lot, and we're getting a new booster pack with this set, and we've talked about that on the show already, but it's a lot. And then there's also the list. I'm not going to get into the list today. I think we've talked about it in the past, but they did actually spoil a few cards, including Food Chain, which is an old Mercadian Masks enchantment for 2 and a green. Remove a creature that you control from the game. Add X mana of any color to your mana pool, where X is a removed creature's CMC +1. This mana may only be spent to play creature spells. They spoiled Simian Spirit Guide, and they also spoiled Slimefoot the Stowaway. So very clearly a bunch of stuff going to be available in the list. But I think we're going to have to wait to hear a little bit more information about the list before I think we dive into it. So that's all the Zendikar news, and there was a lot. And now let's talk about 2021, because they decided that this week was a good time to tell us what's coming up in 2021. So quarter one, the first set of the year. So this will be probably January-ish, although it feels like things are going to get moved around a little bit. I promise I have zero inside knowledge as to when these sets are coming out. They've just listed it as Q1 for 2021 for Kaldheim, which is Magic's take on what a world inspired by Vikings might look like. Y'all excited for this one? Yay, nay, kind of whatever?
I'm not super hot on Vikings as a whole thing, but like I'm looking forward to it. It's a new Magic set. Should be cool.
Dwarf energy intensifies.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, I'm excited for the Viking Magic set for sure.
I'm probably just bitter because I've been playing Crusader Kings 3, and this guy from Lapland just showed up and kicked my door down. I don't know why, but sucked.
That's how they say hello from Lapland.
Wildly unfair.
Kaldheim is number 1 set for next year. Then we move into Strixhaven, the most elite university in the multiverse. They didn't really give much other information other than just it feels very... I mean, a lot of the very quick assumptions was it's going to be like Harry Potter, but in Magic. I think it's probably going to be a little less kid-oriented, but who knows? This one I'm kind of excited for, to be honest.
The very clear statement that this is a university, not an English-style boarding school.
Right.
So don't worry. There will be relatively few 9 and 10-year-olds getting lightning bolted or doom bladed or being fed to carrion feeders.
Just being eaten by crawworms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Don't worry, Timmy. You can block that Sheevan dragon.
Getting fireballed. Yeah.
I think what I'm kind of excited about for this one is I think the fact that they've kind of got into this treating sets as, does it need to be 1? Can it be 1? Do we need 2? Maybe 3? No, 1's fine. It means that I feel like the stories can be much smaller. And I like the idea that Strixhaven is not an entire... I mean, it probably will expand, but at least my initial impression is it feels like it's going to be a much smaller feeling environment, which I think is kind of cool.
Like, not everything has to be a battle for the future of the multiverse.
Right. Or even just a battle for the future of whatever plane we're on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like Eldraine actually did a pretty good job of
I was going to say that too.
Standing alone on its own, but it's still... I feel like this probably will have a lot in common with Eldraine, to be honest. I feel like we'll see a lot of similarities there, just in terms of scale and scope of the story that they're trying to tell. But I don't know. This one, I think, of all of them, I actually think I might be the most excited for, because I just don't know what this... Like, I have an idea of what Viking Magic is going to look like, and I have an idea of what the next couple sets that we're going to talk about are going to look like. But this one, it feels like an unknown to me, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I'm very enthusiastic about it. My main comment on this is that if Strixhaven doesn't have a school band, I'm just gonna be disconsolate.
Fair.
Like, at least give me a trumpet blast. Like, come on.
Well, I'm fully ready to take the quiz to figure out what I am in place of a Hufflepuff in Strixhaven. So I am at least looking forward to that. And I also, I second your comment that, Magic sets can be exciting and thrilling and like really fun, even if the storyline surrounding and moving through the set is just a little murder mystery, right? Or a little case, a kidnapping or something. Like there's just like some intrigue going on, or even a love story, like rather than, there's worldwide destruction and Nicol Bolas is going to destroy the universe or whatever. It's like, doing that is fine, but it's okay too to spend a whole quarter on just like, oh, there's nymphs and like the fairies are running through the forest and things are not what they seem. And oh no, I got turned into a food token and then I got turned into an elk. Please help me, giant.
Let's come back to Strixhaven in a couple of years for spring break.
Right? Yeah.
And you've just got like all the intense, like spring break at Strixhaven takes place on like, they go to Dominaria somewhere, right? So spring break at Strixhaven is just all the nerds.
Ooh, I like it.
Right? Who had to stay in residence during spring break. And it's just like mono nerds not having any responsibilities. That's what I want.
All right, so that's Strixhaven, and then we're going to be moving into the summer of next year, and we're going to get something that I think probably was the most hyped of everything, which is a proper crossover between Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. So this is Dungeons and Dragons: Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and this is a D&D themed Magic set. There's no like skirting around it. There's no like, oh look, it's the Bag of Holding from D&D. That's neat. No, this set is going to be taking place in the world of Forgotten Realms and borrowing from D&D in every way that we can probably imagine. And what I think is most interesting is that this is actually taking the place of next year's core set. Now, they didn't say if that meant that we won't see core set return in the future. To be honest, personally, I was a big proponent of bringing the core set back, and I'm really glad that they did. But that being said, I think that there are ways that they can experiment with what the core set is supposed to do, which is introduce new players to the game in really fun and interesting ways. And I think that and melding it with D&D is just an absolute no-brainer. So I'm really excited for this one. I think this is going to be really neat.
Agreed. Like, I think we can easily see a return of the level up mechanic.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
And I'm just also going to say that unless I get a deck of many things related alternate win condition, once again, I'm going to be utterly disconsolate.
Is Dritz going to be a legendary rogue or a planeswalker?
Oh, no.
I feel like we'll see him as a planeswalker.
Probably, right? That's not sort of appropriate, and yet it's like the gold star, like the first class treatment of Magic cards. And so there's powerful characters, and I think Dritz is from Forgotten Realms or something, right? Isn't that right? No, I'm way off. Help me, Cameron.
You're right.
Oh no, I'm right. It's worse. It's even worse. You just don't want to see it. Okay, yeah. Prepare. Hey, D&D fans who play Magic. Yeah, you heard his groaning. Prepare for your hearts to be cut out of your chests and stomped on. There's going to be something about it that doesn't fit right with your imagining of the Forgotten Realms. And the capable people at Wizards of the Coast are going to do a great job of making a Magic set where they also just happen to destroy some part of your childhood. And I'm grateful for it.
I played Drizzt Do'Urden, Thirst of the Blood Chief kicked. But my
Perfect.
Drizzt,
yeah,
he auto-equips with Twinkle as soon as he enters the battlefield.
All right, so that's D&D, and then that takes us to the end-ish of the year, and we're going to be returning to Innistrad. which I know a lot of people will be excited about. A lot of people will be like, whatever. I'm excited, and it feels like they're very focused on bringing back that werewolves and vampires aspect that everybody loved in the first one, because they are literally releasing 2 sets, one focused on vampires and one focused on werewolves. Now, they haven't explained how this is going to work. They've said it's 2 big sets, and they are coming out at the end of the year in Q4. Your guess is as good as mine. I could see 2 separate sets with a shared card pool, but one set features vampires and one set features werewolves. I could see 2 entirely completely different sets. Who knows? There was very little information. They didn't even give us the actual name of the sets. They literally are just called right now Innistrad Werewolves and Innistrad Vampires. So we're going to have to wait a while, I think, before we start to learn more about this one. But I mean, Innistrad's great. It's a fan favorite. I'm excited to go back. You guys?
Definitely looking forward to seeing a commander playable werewolf commander.
Hey, if you're fans of us and you listen to this podcast, but you've never drafted Magic the Gathering, think about trying to get yourself into a draft of Magic the Gathering next fall, because Innistrad has continued, like, it's, in my opinion, a perfect track record of being a fantastic draft environment. The first set by itself is most people who have played its favorite set to draft. And then the second set didn't entirely ruin it. It just diluted some of the really fun things you could do in the first set, but it was still a good environment. And then when we came back to Innistrad, that was also a very challenging format with a lot of cool interactions, and really I had a really great time drafting. I've had a really good time drafting all of the sets that are set on Innistrad.
I am really looking forward to next fall when I finally commit to fighting Matthew Greer for werewolves at a draft table. Like somebody has to do it in one of these sets.
I have terrible news for you. Jeremy White and I just sat on either side of him during one of the drafts in late Shadows over Innistrad, and we just both went red-green, and so did Matthew, and he still just beat us. It was it's like it didn't matter which pieces of the puzzle you gave him. He was always just like, yeah, I'll just beat you with, the other red-green card that you didn't pick.
It's not fair.
It was brutal.
So Innistrad, I'm excited.
Agreed.
All right, so then we have the 2 supplemental sets that they announced. First up, Time Spiraled Remastered, coming out next year. This is a new way to experience Time Spiral. Will feature fan favorites from the beloved set, as well as cards printed with the old border. They spoiled Chalice of the Void, Path to Exile, and Relentless Rats. The idea is that these are, obviously printing technology and inks have changed in the last, 15 or 20 years. But the idea is these are what those cards look like, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for a while. So continuing on with this sort of remastered thing that they've been doing most recently with Amonkhet.
My God, they're going to give us an old border Tarmogoyf, and the internet is going to lose its mind.
Ooh, it's possible. That could be kind of cool.
Oh my God,
They've been begging for it. They might give us old border Dark Confidant too. Who knows?
That'd be cool.
Ooh.
I'm a huge fan of Time Spiral. Also, another great set to draft. And just like, it seemed to me to be one of the biggest events in my Magic career that seemed to get people out and playing more. Like, I don't know if that was intended, but certainly Magic's been around for a long time. And even when Time Spiral came out, it had already been around for more than 10 years. And so a lot of people who played for a year or two, as the way you do, like friend groups change or whatever, and you don't have an opportunity to play Magic anymore. And then when Time Spiral came back, it was just like, oh, new printings of old cards. And like the fact that they got a new printing and they were in a new environment meant that they were acknowledged for different strengths. Like the cards were shown in a different light. And so when you see a card you're familiar with, but it's doing something new, there's like a weird, like nostalgic response you get. And there's some endorphins that happen and makes you want to play Magic again. So I'm excited for that. Also, the remastered name, like the suffix, I guess, has been slapped onto a bunch of sets, but only ever on digital platforms. So I just want to double check with you, James, that this is going to be a paper set.
Yes.
The article doesn't mention that it's only going to be on Magic Online or only going to be on Arena or something.
It's definitely not going to be on Arena. I don't actually know if it's going to be on Magic Online, but this is 100% paper product.
Neato.
Yeah. Gavin Verhey, was very vocal about that. It will be a paper product, and he's very excited about the old borders.
Great. Looking forward to it.
All right, so finally, Modern Horizons 2. Not really much to say other than this set will feature all 5 enemy fetch lands in draft boosters at rare.
Oh, cool. So they answered that question finally.
So
great.
You can look forward to finally collecting all 5 enemy fetch lands next year when Modern Horizon 2 drops, whenever that is. They didn't give a release date. I can't remember where in the calendar it fit. I think it was the earlier in the year one, but I could be wrong on that. Who knows? But yeah, there's a lot. That they talked about a whole lot this past week. And we obviously still have Zendikar Rising to get through this year and Commander Legends before we even, get into 2021. As usual, no shortage of Magic to be consuming and enjoying and, figuring it out. So
complaining about.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who complain about Magic a lot. I'm not one of them, but, you complain all you'd like.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why we invite you back.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, friends. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Remember that coming up on September 14th at 11 a.m. Pacific over on twitch.tv/loadingreadyrun is the Zendikar Rising pre-release featuring Graham, Kathleen, Cameron, Adam, Ben, Wheeler, Megan, and Maria from Magic the Amateurin, who are going to be calling in from their offices, and Nelson and what's his name? Snurge. Good old Snurge.
Everybody loves Snurge.
Who will be judging. Paul and I will be around as well, but we generally just sit at our computers and be quiet. But should be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to get some guests, as it were, back into the PPR mix. It's been a few since we've tried to do that, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope you can tune in for that. Thanks to all our friends over at cardkingdom.com/LRR for sponsoring not only this show, but our streams. And y'all are great. And we love you. And they're working hard to get cards out the door. So go check them out. We'd appreciate it. And finally, all the love and support you show us over at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun. We say it every single time in everything that we do, but we truly mean it. We couldn't do what we do without your support. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm James. They were Nelson and Cameron.
We were.
Be kind to yourself.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.